Hi, Gemini Sun and Rising. Welcome to a video on the transit of Jupiter in the sign of Pisces. As I record this on December 28th, 2021, this is the official date of Jupiter going back into Pisces, as it earlier in 2021 entered Pisces just briefly and spent most of the year in Aquarius. Well, now it's going back into Pisces, and it will stay here in Pisces until May 10th of 2022 when it goes into Aries. But as you probably know, Jupiter retrogrades every year, and so it will retrograde July 28th, so same date as today. So how many months is that? 7 months from now, exactly. From this date, it will retrograde in Aries at, let's see what degree. I'm thinking it's like about 8 degrees of Aries. And that means it's going to lose degrees and it will go back into Pisces. And so it will go back into your 10th house after spending a little time in your 11th house. And of course, this is a general forecast for all Gemini Sun and Rising people. Your individual chart is going to vary, and so the exact dates of entrance and exits will be different. So we're looking at around October when Jupiter goes back to like the 29th of October, when Jupiter goes back to 29 degrees of Pisces and continues its losing degrees. It goes direct on November 23rd at 28 degrees of Pisces. So suffice it to say, it doesn't go back very far into Pisces when it retrogrades. And then around the winter solstice, actually the day before, it goes back into Aries. So you're going to get a little bit more of the Pisces towards the end of the year. Okay, but you're going to have it for the majority of the year if you look at it that way. Okay, so what does this mean for Gemini? First of all, Jupiter is the planet of luck and expansion. So in the 10th house, which is the career house and the house of your reputation in this world, this gives you a lot of confidence. Because, by the way, I obtained this information from a site called jessicadavidson.co.uk. I am paraphrasing things, so don't assume that that's what she meant to say. I'm just putting in my own words. I might be wrong about it, doing it that way, but I think it's pretty obvious. I could have come up with this list on my own, but I like to look at other people's stuff. And, Jupiter is just a very positive influence altogether. So wherever it lands in your chart in terms of a transit, it's going to give you a lot of confidence, but I would even put it more like positivity. But I think that the reason she might have used the word confidence for the 10th house is because it is the 10th house of career, and confidence is a big part of career. If you really, 10th house can be your success in life. And in order to really attract success, you have to believe in yourself, right? The people that tend to fail are people that are unsure of themselves. And this can be, any kind of profession. Think about somebody who's an artist. Maybe they're a singer, and they could have raw talent, and they have, they're doubting their abilities. They're perfectionists to the point where they can't put themselves out there because they think that they're not good enough. those kinds of people are not going to succeed because they're too hard on themselves. Sometimes the people who are not necessarily top tier, they become quite successful and famous or well known because they just have a lot of confidence. And when you have confidence, you can, I was going to say you can trick somebody into believing in you, but it'll be infectious and other people will see you as a successful person. So, but I think that also this confidence is about positivity. So it can make it easier for you to leave a job, even if it's something that you don't hate, that pays well, because you feel like you want to go into your dream job. And it may not even be a situation where you're making the same amount of money, because Jupiter is very philosophical. So it's going to make you look at career as more than just a paycheck, as something that you're fulfilling this higher purpose, maybe you could call it that. And let's face it, a lot of us have that in the back of our minds. Like, wouldn't it be great if I could do da 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 da? But that's really a pipe dream because, what if it didn't work out? Because it's usually something that's more open-ended. It's easy to jump into a track. I always wonder, is it a track or a tract? Which word I should be using. Like if you go to college and you major in something, that has like kind of a prefab type of path set out for you. And it makes it easier to follow such a path. And I'm not putting down if somebody really has something that they want to do, maybe that is a plus to them. But when Jupiter is transiting this house, it's like you want something more. And that moreness can also, to me, involve freedom, because that's what Jupiter is, the ruler of Sagittarius, and there is always that element of freedom when we talk about expansion, because it's about growth. And growth keeps you from being too small, from playing too small, I should say. And, the 10th house is considered one of the important houses. It's an angular house where all the action is at. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that in terms of the chart as a whole. But I mean, I'm telling you what the dogma of astrology, if whatever you want to call it, is that the 10th house is one of those important houses because it's a career sector. So Jupiter here can really create a lot of abundance with your career. You may have more opportunities there. So that is in addition to wanting more. Jupiter is philosophical, so it's looking at life and saying, you could do even more than you're doing right now. You could reach more people. You could ascend higher. And you might have opportunities to travel through your work because Jupiter rules the 9th house of long distance travel. Now, I put in parentheses freedom because to me, travel is naturally, I associate that with freedom because you're not stuck in a little cubicle all the time. So there's that expansive quality, and that can make you feel very free. Now, Gemini people, whether your sun is in Gemini or the rising sign, you're kind of restless. You're the opposite sign of Sag, so you tend to be very restless. I'm a sun in Sagittarius, so I totally get this, and so do you. So this may be right up your alley. And so I put here your place in the world could be elevated, and yes, it could be through career matters. Maybe there's some other way that would happen. More abundance may flow into your life connected to your career. Now, some cautions some cautionary info regarding Jupiter. Even though it's this benevolent planet, it does have its own pitfalls. And the biggest one is probably exaggeration, which can also mean being overconfident. So taking these risks that aren't really calculated, but just kind of assuming the best in every situation and being overly optimistic and then having it fall short. So, the author of that website was saying, I was just skimming it, but she said something about, having a net, having some kind of safeguards in place, a safety net, so that if you are taking risks, you're not just doing so blindly. Maybe you have a certain amount of money saved up, maybe you have a plan B, but you're not just, they have this saying, leap and a net will appear. The universe will provide a net. Well, maybe. But what if every saying doesn't come true? Then what? So it's always good to have something in, some kind of a plan B. You might be too full of yourself. You might be arrogant, in other words, because you feel like that confidence is kind of taking over to the extreme that you start to believe your own hype. And that can lead to problems of its own. What's that saying that says pride comes before the fall, or the bigger they grow, the harder they fall, or something, something along those lines. Yeah, so be careful about over optimism and being puffed up about maybe all this good juju that's coming your way, and just thinking that all of a sudden you're completely, you have the magic touch and nothing can touch you. Be very sober about it, because it's better to, have a humble attitude about success than letting it go to your head. And if you have some kind of career or business and you overexpand, that could be problematic as well. I remember this was years ago, probably 10 years ago, but there was a cafe I used to like to go to, and the owner, her partner, was the one who started it, and she was working there, and this person decided to open a new cafe, and they really hadn't been open with the first one that long, I didn't think, and I was like, oh wow, they must be doing really well to be opening a second place. And it didn't seem like the place was very packed, the one that I would go to, the first one, the original one. And sure enough, this person bit off more than they could chew. And not only did they not succeed with the expanded version, but then they ended up having to give up the original cafe. So that's what I'm talking about. You don't want to mess everything up because you just have this unrealistic expectation that everything is just going to fall into place because you had some initial success. Still be very mindful of doing things in a balanced way. Okay, that's what I have for you, Gemini. I hope that this excites you as to the potential for 2022 and what that means for you, because I'll be doing one for Aries, I'm sure, within the next few months. And the interesting thing about the Aries transit for you when Jupiter goes into Aries is that's going to be the 11th house, and there can still be some financial gain because this is the house of gains. So this could have a direct, be the direct result of what happened, all the success in the 10th house. So the better it gets, the better it gets. Okay, well, thank you for listening. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.